is currently experiencing its worst ever economic crisis in a generation, leading to widespread anger and hardship. A liter of fuel or petrol costs more than 3 times what it did 9 months ago, while the price of staple food, rice, has more than doubled in the past year. Indeed, the country is crying. This morning, on Morning Ride, we'll be x-raying the Nigerian economy. To do justice to this is one who is both intelligent and eloquent, one who is fit to have conversation, no matter how vast it comes when it concerns the economy. He is National Deputy Chairman, Diaspora Engagement, 2023 Senate candidate for Delta North. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us in the studio Honorable Dr. Kenneth Chubugo Bandi. It's good to have you.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to Morning Ride.
Thank you so much, sir.
Good to have you, Chief.
Good morning, sir. Welcome to Morning Ride.
Thank you so much.
All right. Now, I want you to, first of all, let me feel your thoughts and perceptions about the current state of the Nigerian economy. Let's get an overview from you.
I think I can basically put it better than you just did in your opening statement. Nigeria is, we're experiencing an unprecedented economic hardship. We've had it rough in the past, and then, but it has never been so rough. I mean, you go to the market today, just to put it in a layman's word, you go to the market today, you price something for XYZ Naira, you go there tomorrow, the price is doubled. And of course, our fixed incomes, our salary remains the same. And so you can imagine, I mean, if you look at social media today, you see people looting trucks. I'm not encouraging that. I'm not saying it's right. Okay. You see people looting, truck carrying goods. The hunger is real. The economic predicament, it's real. And thanks to the APC government, the funny thing is that we have, in the last 8 years, like I said, the economy has not been healthy. But the last 8 years, we have the APC government, and unfortunately, the current president and commander-in-chief is a member of the APC who are saying that the economy under Buhari was good and was healthy. They told us they were doing good, and unfortunately, we'll see how good it is. So, to put it to summarize it, Nigeria has never witnessed this kind of economic predicament, and this is unprecedented. I don't actually know if I have any words to describe that.
Okay, let's try to be fair as we x-ray the Nigerian economy. What are the strengths and weaknesses of the current Nigerian economy from your perspective?
If you, I've been outside this country for the past 28 years, okay. And every single business, every single company wants to do business with Nigeria. Okay. The fact is that we have the strongest, young, vibrant population in the world. With about 250 million people, you can produce and sell anything in Nigeria. And we have a very young, mobile, intelligent, mobile force. Our kids, our youths are part of the best in the world. Check out the Under Secretary of State from Germany to US to UK. Most of the policymakers, top-notch policymakers, are all Nigerians. And so that is just a microcosm of what we have in this country. So we have a robust environment in terms of young force to support the economy. We have a lot of mineral resources. Lumumba, the very eloquent professor, said that with the resources in Nigeria, you cannot understand why Nigeria should be. So all the parameters are there. What we're lacking is good governance.
Good governance.
Now, let's go straight to some of the economic things going on in Nigeria. Now, with the 650,000 barrels per day Dangote refinery, that's in Lekki, Lagos, coming on stream for local production of petrol in the past couple of months, and Air Peace Airlines in the past 1 week commencing operation on Nigeria-UK lucrative routes previously monopolized by British Airlines, would you agree that Nigeria is poised to end the strangulation of our economy? That's what some experts are saying right now.
My national chairman, Chief Rafo Kemoso, published an article yesterday, and the title of the article is "Hope is not good enough," or "It's no longer good enough." The former president of this country, military president, IBB, he said that he can't understand why Nigerians, you can stress Nigerians to the limit, and then they will keep growing. They will believe things are going to be okay. Refinery, good. Congratulations to Airpeace. Of course, it's very, very, a welcome development. But please, the refinery, how many liters go into the market? What effect does that have on the price of goods to the market, on the common man? And so we have these economic jargons. You pump in money, you release money from the federal government, to put the dollar under stress. These are artificials. These are not, economic generated. We're not importing, we're not exporting, we're not manufacturing. And so what we're just doing is so we want to see the effect of those refineries pumping into fuel into the market. We want to see Airpeace flying to London. We want to see the effect on the common man. That is the only indices we can use to judge if our economy is healthy or not.
Okay. Away from oil, how do you assess the performance of Nigeria's economic diversification efforts in recent years?
Well, let me warn my viewers. I'm not an economic expert.
It's all right. And
so I'm only speaking as a stakeholder, somebody who has at least who has a stake in this country. As a former senatorial candidate, of course, we hope to have an oversight function if we've won, and to make sure that these economic policies that we have are not only implemented but also have And so the indices, like I said, are there. We could still do better. But I'm not saying the results. We can speak all the grammars we want to speak. We can play with words as good journalists, but we still want to see the results on the ground. So far, we've not seen it. And so until we start having the effect on the common man, then we can judge the economy based on that.
Do you think Nigeria is putting much effort to make sure that aside from oil, we could diversify and look into areas like agriculture, to generate income for the country?
No nation survives without agriculture. That's basic. So agriculture is basic. Again, we've had this story, we've had this, I've been on your program many times. We're talking about diversification, we're talking about agriculture. I don't see any national policy on agriculture from this government, sorry to say. Apart from pockets and one or two things there. Diversification is good, of course, apart from oil, which has actually what we call a resource cost, because since we discovered oil, people seems to leave out the basic things they are doing and the rest of them. So diversification is good. I mean, it's any wise economy, any wise leader will work on diversification of the economy. Agriculture is basic. We have the IT, which is actually one of the things ruling the world. Our youth are perfectly, we can see in the negative sense all the Yahoo boys, what they are doing. If we can channel those resources into an IT hub where the potentials of our youths are. So the ITs are there, the agricultures are there, and manufacturing. Nigerians are very resourceful people. If we have a standard light, if we have a standard infrastructures, I think we could turn around the economy. Unfortunately, like I said, I'm not seeing those results on the ground.
Let's talk about the role of corruption as it affects the nation's economy. I want you to buttress on that.
I think it's I don't know if it's Buhari, President Buhari, who once said it, that either Nigerian will kill corruption or corruption will kill Nigeria. The fact is that the corruption in this country is more or less institutionalized. And so people, they don't have any issue, they don't have any qualms, being labeled as corrupt people. And look at the ministers that we have who are under investigation by EFCC, where from the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, 30-40 billion into an individual account. You just, sometimes I really don't understand if people, seeing the impact. 30 billion on one individual's account. And these are the things that could build how many schools, how many hospitals, that can build how many power plants that can generate, power, electricity, generate employment. And so it's obvious that corruption is killing Nigeria. Unfortunately, we're not winning that battle. Hopefully, we'll have a turnaround.
Do you think that we should first go after corruption before talking about making economic policies that can make our nation grow as far as the economy is concerned?
I belong to the school of thought that I don't think it's going to be either this
or that.
It should be this and that. Okay. We should be able to. We have the capacity. to do both of them at the same time, because both of them are very, very important. And you don't want to wait until until you kill corruption. That might take the next 30 years to achieve. And so when you start doing that, what happens to the economy? And so we need to do that, and together. And I'm sure that we'll have the capacity to do that.
Are you comfortable with the role of the EFCC towards fighting corrupt practices, especially when it concerns financial crimes and corruption? Because I'm just focusing on corruption for now.
No, I am not. Definitely, I'm not. I think EFCC they've become part of government parastatals that used to fight opposition parties and individuals that they don't like in the society. I was reading in the paper just yesterday, and I can't understand how one so-called Nigerian socialist, Bobrisky or whatever they called, and she was being arrested and for abusing the naira, so to say. And at the same time, a lady was just given a state award, for just throwing the same. I mean, it can go on and on and on. No. I want to see some of the past governors. I want to see some of the past senators who have been indicted of corruption. I want to see them being on trial. Being on trial is not enough. I want to see them behind bars. Okay. That's only when you start sending the message. If you don't do that, people believe that they will just go in there, go and see one or two godfathers, and they will come out. So no, I am not impressed with that.
Okay. Can you discuss the role of government policies and regulation in shaping the trajectory of the Nigerian economy, particularly in terms of promoting growth and development?
Well, again, like I'm not an economic expert, but when we have, the central government, when it was being, cleared at the Senate, okay. A member of the ruling party, former chairperson of the APC, former governor of this country, Adam Oshomole, did not express confidence in the ability of the then appointed central governor to change the economy. Why do I use that as a reference? And because shaping the economy is about policies. Which policies are you putting in place? To be able to guide the economy. Central bank is not a commercial bank, and so if you look at the policies that this current administration is putting in place, some are give them the credit. Some are extremely very good, but some are just I don't know how to put it. Is it recycling? Is it settling big boys and the rest of them? Otherwise, I do not understand how some ministers and some governors, not governors, some ministers and some board of directors, could be appointed in this administration and expect to get results. And we have had a lot of policy reversals. Somebody is appointed today, and 2-3 days later, they said for whatever reasons he was not qualified. They reverse it, and so on and so forth. And so then you can't have a confidence. But let me say this: what Nigeria is experiencing, especially with the economic somersault, perception is sometimes more important than reality. Okay. And people need to believe that the government of the day is sincere in pursuing any reform. And once they have this belief, they are the beliefs are strong that they meant well for the economy, they meant well for the country, then people are going to fit into that. It's a government that is putting up policies. A minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria saying that we should offer our freezers before we leave for work, when he should be talking about how do we expand the energy mix, renewable energies and the rest of them. How do we have increase in production so that we can have a. So if you look at that, so at the end of the day, you have a president who is going to foreign affairs with a jumbo entourage, including his two sons and the rest of them. At the same time, you're telling us to tighten our belts and the rest of them. So both of them does not match. So at the end of the day, you are telling people, do what I say, don't do what I do, and it's not going to work. And so we need to have, a nation. We need to have a government that is rolling out policies, and the policies that they are also living with, and they have to inspire confidence, and people have to go on with them because they believe that they meant well. So far, it's not happening.
From your own perspective, what kind of policies do you think they should come up with to make the Nigerian economy stronger?
Well, what do we need? What can any country, need for survival? Investment in infrastructures, investment in light, having what we call environment that supports investment. Let me give you a very critical example. There's some calculation I posted, out very, I think about 2-3 days. I apologize for the wrong calculation, but the sense is made. And what was the sense? We are having about 90 billion. I don't know if it's naira, but I think it's 90 billion naira to support pilgrims or to support Hajj. And I'm sure that probably another 90 million will be used, to support, the Christian pilgrim to Jerusalem. If you put 90 plus 90, think of if we are going to use that money to build 2 or 3 power stations in a state. Think about the effects it's going to have in terms of, generation of employment. Think of the effect it's going to have, on creating jobs for the youth. And so, what kind of policy are we trying to? The policy of subsidizing Hajj and Christian pilgrimage to Jerusalem with about 300 billion, or the policy of investing in infrastructures. And so, again, like I said, the facts are there. So either you choose to invest in irrelevancies because you want to be seen as a good person, or you want to bribe the Christian community or the religious community, you want to bribe them, or you invest in the hard investment. Invest in power, invest in road, youth employment, youth capacity buildings, and the rest of them. These are all what we need to get the economy rolling.
In one of your postulations, you said Nigeria needs fearless and visionary leaders. I want to understand how a fearless leader can change the dynamics of Nigeria and make us live better. Tinubu seems to be a fearless person, knowing that he's shown to have a good negotiating power, and most times seems to be the most powerful amongst politicians in the country. Yeah.
Again, I disagree with you.
Okay. I said seems to be.
The taste of the pudding is in the eating. I will be the first person to double for the president and commander-in-chief if at the end of the day the unemployment rate is reduced, if at the end of the day the prices of goods and services are coming down. Fearless in the sense that if you could say no, no to Hajj, 90 million subsidization of Hajj. If you can say no to subsidization of any pilgrimage to Israel because you think they are not generating enough resources for the economy. If you appoint, in fact, after the election, after the controversial election, which is still controversial, I stand bold to say that.
Yeah.
I've been on this program to criticize the INEC sham election, and so which imposes the current leadership on us. But we've passed that. But the fact is that if we could sit up and say no to certain things that are happening in this country. I have called that if I was an advisor, if I'm an advisor to the president, the first thing we would have done is to form a government of national unity.
How is that done?
You bring in technocrats. You bring in people across the political party. My first 100 days in office is going to be exactly to set up an agenda on how to restructure this country. That's what Fearless is all about. How to set up an instrument to have a true federalism. That's what Fearless is all about. To begin to throw to the current constitution into the dustbin because it's updated and does not meet the needs of our people. That's what Fearless is all about. But no, they won't do that. If you are caught as a minister, like we have several of them, and you are being investigated and found guilty, you spend the next 30 years in prison. That's what Fearless is all about. So until you begin to do those things, you're just doing a cosmetic things and try to settle down your election debt until you finish recovering all your money
and I'm just curious to know how to you that can affect the economy of Nigeria. I want you to stress it very well for our dear viewer to understand.
I just give an example. If Delta State, with the amount of resources of oil they have, are allowed to control their own resources, if Delta State is allowed to generate their own tax and spend their own tax, then there's going to be a competition among the states to do better. there's going to be a competition among the states, to not only to do better, but also to collaborate when there is necessary.
Okay.
And so, but when you have a situation where you have the center, and sorry to say, some of our brothers across other states who want to subsidize XYZ with about how many billions, but they are not generating even as much as that, but taking a handout from the federal government. Once that keeps happening, then of course you're not going to get any serious economic review. So restructuring means allowing the states, to generate their own resources, allowing the state to control their own, tax and, send it out to whatever they have. That's what restructuring is all about. Allowing the states to grow at their own strength. Allowing the state police. That's what restructuring is all about. You have a state, a commissioner of police in Lagos State, which is the current governor of Lagos State, Shorolu, when he has to intervene in Bagada, and the team of policemen who came to settle the issue in Bagada said they don't take orders from the governor, but they take the order from the IG of police.
No, the chief security
of the state. I mean, how do you want that state to function? And so these are the things we are, when you say restructuring, these are the things about restructuring. When you say fearless, these are the things you stand bold to say, these things are not working, we need to change the equation.
On the flip side, if the states are given that kind of power, don't you think that kind of absolute power would propel absolute corruption for the part of governors in the
country? But we're not there yet. Almost all the successful countries I know in the world, Switzerland, Germany, United States, and so many other countries, they run a federation, a true federation. And in these two federations, also the security agitator is also included. If those countries are doing better, why are we so scared that? And yes, of course, we have our teaching problems. So why not? The bottlenecks are going to be there. But at the end of the day, I think, honestly speaking, they said somebody who is already on the ground. Why are you still fearing of falling down? Nigeria is currently on the ground. So what else? What are we scared of? We should try something different. What we have now is this union we have now is not working. We should look at other things and say that if it's going to work.
Okay.
All right. Honorable, you are the National Deputy Chairman, Diaspora Engagement. Do you see diaspora playing any role in driving the economic growth and development in Nigeria?
Wow, I like that topic. Thank you for that question. And before 2013, 14, 15, and 16 and 17, the remittances of Nigerians in diaspora are over $60 billion US. And according to Privatisation and according to International Monetary Fund, without that remittances from diaspora, Nigeria would have gotten bankrupt. That's the statistics. So that answers your question. And that is why the both economic and medical intervention of the diaspora has sustained this country. Statistics are shown that in Nigeria, I think out of every 10 families, 7 of them are in diaspora. And because of the remittance they are having, that's why they can support, bills like school fees, electricity, and those families, according to statistics, are doing better than the other families who are not having a relative abroad. That's number one. The current electronic voting that you have in Nigeria was actually spearheaded by the diaspora. Personally, I was involved in meeting INEC. I was involved in making presidential and national assembly, where we have to make a case for diaspora voting. We are informed that diaspora voting can only take place if we have electronic voting, and therefore we need to have an amendment of the Constitution. And so, unfortunately, after the amendment of the Constitution, the diaspora voting was voted down, but the electronic voting was passed. That's why we had, the so-called electronic voting that we have thought would have made a difference in the national election. Unfortunately, that's not the case. So yes, diaspora has been very, very active over the years, and thank God to President Olusegun Obasanjo, former president of Nigeria, for initiating the diaspora engagement philosophy called the NIDO Organizations and Diaspora Engagement. So yes, diaspora can play a very important role, and they've been playing that, and they will still continue to play that, in as much as we've been denied the opportunity to vote. They see us as a cash cow of the nation. Where we have to pay for our passport, we have to pay for NIN, we have to pay for everything, but we're not allowed to vote. And I hope this government, fearless, according to my very good friend, would be bold enough to say it's time to allow the diaspora to vote. And then, so we're hoping that that will help in also pushing.
For the record, I said seemingly fearless.
Seemingly fearless. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I correct myself. Seemingly fearless.
Now, how has the high borrowing cost and rising debts hindered Nigeria's ability to finance its development agenda? I'll just take you through something. Nigeria recently spent as much as 2.34 trillion naira in 6 months to service a humongous public debt that is currently in excess of 107 trillion naira. that she started with. That is why the country's national budget of 27.5 trillion naira for 2024 has nearly half of it appropriated for settling the nation's outstanding debt, which is composed of local and international debt stock. What are your thoughts about how we keep borrowing monies in Nigeria? Do you think that affects the country? I've heard some people say, well, big countries borrow monies too. I've heard some people say they borrow and it's too much. We should stop at some point. What is your one thought about it?
Again, my apology, I'm not an economist.
Yeah, I know that.
I don't want to be waylaid and that but there are certain things that are very basic. We've been crying under Buhari. As a matter of fact, we've been crying under Okowa, the former governor of the state, when they go on borrowing extravaganza. And we said it's going to negatively affect the economy, because at the end of the day, you use a huge part of the budget to service debt, and leaving you little to for investment. And what I do here in our policymakers, which is very, very appalling, that they are being mischievous, or they are basically they lack the knowledge, or both. When I hear say America is a big country, they borrow, Germany is a big country, they borrow. Have you actually also compared the GDP of that country and the per capita income of that country? Have you actually thought about that? Have you actually thought about the electricity in that country that it runs 24/7 without stop? Have you talked about the roads and the railways that they have 24/7 services? No. We always want to compare oranges and apple when it suits us. And no, yes, borrowing, like you elegantly summarized, borrowing means that you have most of your budget to service the debt. You're not producing, you're not generating, and so you're piling up debts for the generation to come, and they are struggling to repay that, and it keeps getting worse. We should focus on manufacturing. We should focus on export, and we should limit our borrowing. Anybody who is telling you that big nations borrow, because of that we can continue to borrow, to do what? To service their lifestyles. I mean, I keep saying that when I see governors saying we are subsidizing pilgrimage, whether it's Christian pilgrimage or Hajj, with XYZ thousands of billions of naira, and I ask myself, what are those countries, what are those states generating? What is the total generation, the revenue generation of that state? And so anybody who is telling you that we are going to borrow to quench the appetite of our political class that's going to have about 17 entourage in his car, in his entourage, cars in his entourage, just to visit XYZ, when our governors will fly public money, fly public jet to go and say good afternoon to Mr. President because it's Hajj time, and you asked me where this money coming from. It's not from borrowing. So they are borrowing to survive their lifestyle, not to help the economy.
How would you react to the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, knowing full well that some people argue they indulge Nigeria into borrowings? They keep giving the country money. So you ask for money, they grant those loans without checking the accountability of the monies borrowed. Do you think there is something, maybe a controversial theory that might mean that the IMF is somehow sponsoring the corruption of Nigeria for their own good?
I will not doubt that. I will leverage, again, like I said, I'm not an economist, but I will leverage on the experience of, again, two governors, Adam Oshomole, which is a member of the ruling party, also in the debate to clear the central bank governor. He was saying that he does not trust the IMF. That any country telling you to to leave your market rate, at floating rate for the economy to decide that it's not being sincere with the country. The same thing with Obaseki also, the governor of those states, which also a renowned banker. He said he does not believe with the IMF meant well for Nigeria when he said that we should keep borrowing and do that. So I will key on those two, experienced Nigerians to say, yes, I think I agree with them. And you can't just keep, you just can't keep devaluing. I mean, in Germany, we have been for the past 28 years. They support they support agriculture. Certain corporations or utility companies are being regulated by the government. They have a lot of shares where they have the deciding factors, indirectly, saying what should be increased, how much should be done, and the rest of them. They have a very powerful trade union that they cannot just stand one day and increase things with that. But here we don't have, these things are not operational. So no, allowing IMF to have their way, the current way we're having in Nigeria, we can go on from now to tomorrow, where they have to regulate the oil company, where they shall have to sell part of its holdings, and at the end of the day, the person who is buying those shareholdings is somebody who is related to the president, to Mr. President. And so you ask, are those regulations done in good faith, or are they done to to satisfy certain set of people? That's why at the end of the day, economic here, economic there, reform here, reform there, until we begin to feel the impact, of the economy on the common man, until we begin to see the price of goods coming down, until we begin to see that the pensioners will get their pensions when it's due, then I still think that we're doing a voodoo economy.
Okay. Earlier, when I asked you what are the strengths of this country, you said Nigeria has the human capital. What are the opportunities and challenges associated with harnessing Nigerians' human capital to drive economic growth and innovation?
Well, we mentioned the youth are the youth of every country, are the backbone of the economy. Private economy drives the economy of every country, both in Germany or United States. So you have to, empower the middle class, the private. You have to create a loan to help the small scale businesses. You have to, have a youth empowerment, project, not the one they do here, to use a wheelbarrow to empower the youth. You have to have a capacity building on that. You have to have a friendly, that a graduate can walk out from the school, go into the bank with one or no godfathers to be able to, to secure a loan and be able to have a way of paying back those loans. These are the, if you do that, you mobilize the youth, you empower them, and they begin to to explore. But most importantly, the basic infrastructure has to be there. Light has to be there. Our minister, rather than talking about offering the freezer, you should be thinking about how do we have an energy mix in Nigeria that will have the renewable energy, that will have, apart from that, how do we bring down the cost of the energy so that the young graduates who want to have a small scale businesses can be able to afford without running a generation 24/7. These are the things we need to put into the economy to make it grow.
Okay. All right, now let's talk about public and civil servant, because people say all hands should be on deck to make Nigeria work. So for the benefit of that, what is the role of public and civil servants towards saving the country's economy?
The truth is that the civil servants are the technocrats that help to build or main every country. As a matter of fact, we blame the politicians for being corrupt. Yes, they are, especially Nigerian politicians. But without civil servants, without the permanent secretaries, without the clerks, and they won't be able to steal or to hide money. So they are also part of them. So, but again, I wouldn't be an expert to prefer solution to how that should be solved. But I believe that if we have true federalism, where each state have to decide what is good for itself, they could be able to prune down the number of the civil servants in each state. They should be able to optimize the relevance of the civil servants. They should be able to be productive oriented, not only to carry file from one desk to the other. They have to come up with policies and make sure they implement the policies of the states at the end of this, so that we can generate resources for the state. And so the civil servants should be repositioned to meet the civil servants of the 21st century, where they have to be productive, where they have to be forward thinking, rather than just carrying files and pushing files here and there.
How can Nigeria ensure sustainable economic growth while also addressing environmental concerns and promoting social equity?
As a tall order, again, have a good economic team that are in sync with the best international policies, build confidence in the people, but most importantly, Sustainable development, we have the SDG goals.
Yes.
The SGD goals are well spelled out. If we have the ministers, we have the head of agencies that are in tune with the SDG goals and the African Union goals, they should be able to implement those SDG goals. We have the African free trade. Unfortunately, in all the economic discussion I'm hearing about this economic team, they have not had any single policies. What's Nigerian policy towards the African free trade zone? Nigeria can trade with the African country within the African continent and make 10 times the amount they are making trading internationally. I don't see any clear-cut policies on that. So we need to harness all these instruments available to us to be able to expand our economy.
Okay. Earlier I spoke about Dangote refinery and airpeace and the feat they achieved. Although you were talking about how it translated to the common man, but somehow they achieved those feat. And I think people who want to take flights to UK can do that successfully and cheaper. People have now said that privatization seems to be the way forward for Nigeria. Do you agree with this?
Yes and no. There should be companies or institutions that need to be privatized, and so to say. But that should not be all. It should be. One should have to look at the critical infrastructure, infrastructures we have, and see exactly which one could be privatized. For instance, the electricity need to be privatized as far back as yesterday. People should be able to generate electricity, so they should be able to do that. Again, like I said congratulations to Airpeace and to Dangote. They are making us proud. They are doing the right thing. But I don't want this administration. I don't want this government to use that as to brand the progress they have made, because it does not translate to the common man until we begin to see the effect on that. So these are purely private initiative, like you rightly said. And so yes, private equity seems to be working in Nigeria. Public-private partnership should be encouraged, because it seems to be the way that has been working across the country, across the globe, and there's no reason why we should not experiment that here.
All right. Let's get your final message to Nigerians, even the state, as regards reviving the nation's economy.
Well, I think to summarize everything we have said, Nigeria needs to be restructured. Nigeria is a sick nation. We are just administering pills and tablets just to keep us going. I think just yesterday, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, our former president, said that it is time to restructure this country. The African Development Bank, Adesina, said, okay, it's time we have United States of Nigeria. So I join those prominent Nigerians to say it's time we restructure this country. If we need to get this country going, we need to get our priorities right, and we need to go into a true federalism. I think that's the way forward, and I think the government should be fearless enough to embark on these reforms, because that's the way to go. Fearless.
I'll take that as our final word this morning, knowing full well what you mean by fearless. Daring policies that could down situations and create greater good for our nation. Thank you so much, Honorable Dr. Kenneth Chibugu Bandi. You are the National Deputy Chairman, Diaspora Emergent Engagement and 2023 candidate for Delta North. It's been a privilege to have had this conversation with you on Morning Ride.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure being here.
It's a pleasure too.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks.
All right, you heard from him. The nation needs to get up and stand up. We need to really move away from the stages of penury and poverty and get back to our strength to be pivotal to the rest of the world as giants of Africa, not just by words, but by actions and by our resources. The show continues, Morning Ride. Do stay tuned, because when we come next, we shall talk about safety and the way you can lead healthy lives in this country and in your home. Stay with us.